And good evening. We are back as the 5280 podcast. I'm Glenn Hauser with Gage Madrid, Cameron Parker, Gage of Broncos Syndicate, Cam of Mainly Broncos, in addition to this show. Mike is still on hiatus. He is holding out of training camp so that whatever works for him, we'll let the big guy do his thing. But
there may or may
fellas,
not be a salary dispute going on right now.
salary.
He's holding out for more guaranteed money.
Yeah, he's actually looking to get paid, and we're like, no, no. Why start now? Why start now? But fellas, training camp in full force. Gage has been giving us some incredible content on site after the fact. But why don't we start with some big news of the day? Broncos country holding their collective breaths upon hearing that Nick Bonito was limping off the field today. Gage, describe that, and then we can follow up with what we're hearing about his condition at this point.
Well, before we get into that, we're just going to take care of some housekeeping matters real quick. Be sure to smash the like button on this stream, guys.
Good.
Also, subscribe to the MHRT Network YouTube channel or the Broncos Syndicate YouTube channel, whichever one you are not watching this stream on right now. It would help us out a ton. Also, be sure to join if you want access to exclusive content, exclusive behind-the-scenes stuff. You can click the little membership button, and you can help us out there as well. As far as Nick Bonito is concerned, it was a bit of a concerning scene out there. It happened during a 9-on-7 rushing period. He comes up lame, and according to people who saw the play, full disclosure, I did not, it appeared to be an ankle injury. He got up, went back down for a little bit, eventually did pop up, slowly walked off with the trainers, and went inside the building. Sean Payton said that Bonito should be fine, but we can't take what Sean says at face value because he said that Dre Greenlaw was going to be fine, and Greenlaw missed the first half of the season. I will say that it's not a season-ending injury or anything like that. We would know by now. Sean would have told us that. But this could be, a sprained ankle. That's just me speculating. I don't know anything for sure. I don't have any inside information. Could be a sprained ankle where it keeps him out for a few practices. But it seems, as far as long-term, heading into week one, we've dodged a massive bullet when it comes to Nick Bonito. We also have another injury with Luke Wattenberg that's worth monitoring because he was knocked out for the season for all except for the AFC Championship game in the back half of last season with an apparent upper body injury, a shoulder injury. He suffered a similar looking injury during yesterday's practice, and he was quite angry after the play happened. You could tell that something wasn't right. I saw him on the side field today. He wasn't wearing any wrapping or any sling, but his arm was stiff. He wasn't moving it a whole lot. So you could tell that something was definitely bothering him there, and that's worth monitoring as well. He was working with all the other injured players today, but it seems that the Denver Broncos don't have any long-term injuries as of right now. Knock on wood there.
Yeah, I was going to say it's usually one where if it's prolonging and you're into preseason, you're even into the second preseason or third preseason, and there's still no action, and that's when you kind of really just start to worry, if you will, as a fan. And so I think the other side of things too, when it comes to Bonito or even for Wattenberg's sake, and we'll dive into Wattenberg, but it's just Wattenberg was back out there today. He was back out there on the side field. It wasn't a case where he was like a full out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so it's one where it's definitely gonna be worth monitoring. And but it's one where I think we all are cautiously optimistic about it all.
And that's the thing. Like you said, he's out there, nothing noticeably wrapped, cautious with the arm, but still invisible to the press as well. So, and when Sean was asked about Bonito and his presser, he didn't look too like his body language did not give the impression that it was something that he was freaking out about behind the scenes.
I was gonna say, you can kind of, now that we know the injury that Bo Nix had after they the AFC divisional round, we can now kind of tell. I feel like when it's a sucker punch of an injury.
Absolutely.
What we could do is we could have Kay Adams ask and get the real story because he'll answer her.
Yeah. We know she'll probably be at training camp.
Which I'm assuming he's talking about me, but thanks for whoever pulled that one up. I appreciate that, you pricks.
Your head looks like a rugby ball.
We should.
That was going on. That one's going up.
I was gonna say that one probably needs to be. We'll roll back this stream, and then that needs to be screenshotted and then shared from either my account, Glenn's account, or Gage's account, and just like no context.
It's the yeah, we have a survey, but we're not.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. But you mentioned Bo Nix as well and his injury. It seems like he has bounced back in tremendous form. I know during the offseason, one of the things that really stood out for me was when he was hanging out at the Masters for 3 days with Drake May, and that course is notoriously the hilliest course on the PGA Tour, and he was managing it with that ankle. So I felt pretty good about it. But seeing him in person and his mobility gauge, tell us a little bit about what you're seeing there.
He looks like the same old Bo Nix, and that's the happiest thing that I can report there because he's had some plays where he's been flushed out of the pocket. He's been under pressure, and there's no limitations. He's not favoring one side or the other. He looks like he's pushing off of both sides equally. He's sprinting at full speed. He looks completely ready to go. So clearly, the Broncos were smart in doing that second procedure, getting it out of the way now. That way, it's not going to linger into the future. And hopefully, all of these ankle injuries are done and behind Bo Nix, and we can just continue to focus on him improving his craft, improving his game, and getting better every single week out there.
Yeah. Well, and I was going to say, too, like, we definitely are going to be talking about risers and, fallers, right? Studs and duds, some people are even saying that there's probably no bigger stud than what we're seeing from Bo Nix right now, which, and I think that, everything we're talking about that, then you add on, he's one of the biggest studs, if not the biggest stud of training camp so far through the first, short handful of days. That is, I think, should be giving a lot of Bronco fans a lot of happiness right now. And so I think that one of the most important parts, and I think Bo kind of talked about this in his presser the last couple of days, is just that you're starting to kind of see him grow year by year by year, which is what you should see out of your quarterback is, the trajectory growth year after year after year. And I think that the one thing that, has been documented a little bit is when he is on the run and he's making, some of those plays, is he's really kind of turned to be a little bit of a more of that playmaker, but being frisky with it. You know what I mean? And so I think that when he's frisky with those throws, I think that's where it's like, okay, he's really starting to kind of fill himself out a little bit, with some of these throws, and it's paying off. I mean, there's a few plays, right, that have been made where it's 50 yards down the field, and it's an explosive play.
Yeah, I agree, man. You're seeing Bo be confident out there, and he's not afraid to push the ball down the field into tight windows. He hasn't really been asked to do that these last 2 practices. I'm hoping we see more out of that tomorrow when we're having more of like a traditional scrimmage type practice. That's going to give us a lot of information, but I agree. You're seeing Bo making layered throws, second, third level throws, on time, in rhythm, both in structure as well as out of structure. And you can see that he's taking those next steps forward. And I'm glad to see that the injury hasn't limited his ability to do that.
Gage, I'm going to pull up Rodney's comment because we're going to get to the studs and duds of training camp thus far. But Barron is not one of them that we're going to be chatting about. But he wants to know what's going on with Barron. If he doesn't step up, was this a waste of a pick in talking about the second-year cornerback?
Well, the thing is, Barron is playing a very important role in this Broncos defense. He's playing a dime backer role. He's playing a backup nickel role. And he also will be moving into the box in various plays as well. They're using him in a bunch of different roles. There was some reporting out there that he was getting some reps at safety. What actually was happening there was he came and was in an inverted look for one play where corners kind of look like they're playing safeties, and a prominent Broncos reporter saw that and took off with it. And it ended up being just inaccurate information. So he's not playing safety, at least full time. There may be some reps where eventually he ends up at that position. But Sean said, no, he's mostly working at these three primary positions. And he looks good in that role. I think the Broncos initially drafted Barron with the vision of him becoming the starting nickel long term, but Jaquan McMillan took his game to an all-pro level where you simply can't take him off the field. I don't think this was a waste of a pick. They're finding smart ways to get him on the field, and he's looked good in that role.
Well, the other obvious factor here is it's the chemistry he has with Vance Joseph, right? Like, he already knows the Joseph family. Terry Joseph is his other brother, who was down there in Texas, and so he already had that Joseph connection, and so it's like he already kind of is in a situation that is familiar to him. And I think that, look, I think they probably did envision drafting him with, in mind of being that nickel corner, next to Jaquan McMillan. But I think that you're also morons if you don't at least look at the full picture of everything that he offers. And we know that Sean Payton specifically mentioned when he was drafted, in the same breath and in the same sentence, Malcolm Jenkins when it came to Jahdae Barron. And Malcolm Jenkins, if anybody knows Sean Payton's history he was with the New Orleans Saints, Jenkins obviously bounced around from the Saints and Eagles, but he was a versatile piece on defense. Like, he was a corner, safety, almost like in that same era of when Kareem Jackson was around, and to where it was like he starts out as a corner, he goes to a safety, or just there's some situations where he's playing corner and he's playing safety. So he kind of alternates between that. So I just think that it's one where Bronco fans are probably just frustrated with. It's like, what is his niche? What is his role going to end up being? I mean, it's one thing to be here goes that term, the defense's joker, if you will, but it's just like, but it's one that's just like, well, is there some sort of niche, that's there, like that they can actually really find and really use him in a little bit more snaps going forward. You know what I mean? And so I think that that's probably the biggest thing is, can they find him in a situation where they can generate 300 snaps from him, or something that is very manageable moving forward.
And
Absolutely.
the thing with Barron too is that, cornerback wasn't necessarily a position of need for the Broncos last year. So when he fell down in the first round a little bit and they were able to snag him, it was one of those things where, oh, this is great. We got a great player. However, like, where's he going to play, and what's his role going to be like? And I have a feeling that in terms of if he doesn't really make some serious impact early on, then we're going to start seeing the people looking at, who came after him that we could have picked in place of that first round choice in that draft last year that could have helped. But I do want to go back to Bo Nix a little bit. One of those things too is The Athletic polled 50 coaches and executives about the quarterbacks in the league, and labeled them in tiers. And our Bo Nix is the top of tier 3. He's the 18th best quarterback in the NFL, according to this survey. I think it's so interesting that the disrespect for this guy just continues to mount. I don't know what else he needs to do. One of the things it says, an exec said, just as easily as he can win games for you, he can lose games for you. Lazy comment.
That is such a lazy comment when I saw a tweet earlier today where Bo Nix is literally, by EPA per play, the most clutch quarterback in the NFL right now. And there is a wide margin between him and the second guy. And that's not Bo's defense stepping up and making plays. That is Bo himself stepping up and making plays. We know what we have, just like Victory Lap says. We know Bo Nix is a franchise quarterback. We know that he is a top 10 quarterback in this league. But the media continues to disrespect him, and the rest of the league disrespects him as well. Fine, continue to disrespect him while he goes out there and beats your ass.
Well, and you know, we talked about it last year, and we'll even bring it up again. Obviously, I know that the NFL Top 100 does not carry as much weight, but he grew in player voting, which means that if there's one thing, and the Bo Nix, in terms of like the overall evaluation of him, I thought has been one of the most fascinating, probably of all prospects in the last handful of years, because it's one where all the draft pundits and, you know, jerks that have been out there in the world that just don't know about Bo Nix, then you go to the players. Then you go to the players who played the position, and they're like, okay, Bo Nix can actually ball. Phil Simms knows what he's talking about, of all things. Kurt Warner knows what he's talking about. You know, like, all these people are like, he is an absolute gamer. And, you know, and then you really start to see things unfold, and the years and years and years. And, oh, by the way, if there is a quarterback out of the 2024 quarterback class who has been the most consistent, it has been Bo Nix. And that might be a little bit biased, but it's also, I think, a bit correct, is that he has been the most consistent quarterback of the 2024 class. Yeah, May had an MVP kind of year. Jaden Daniels won Rookie of the Year. But you know what Daniels did in 2025? He bombed. And you know what May did in 2024? He looked terrible. He bombed in 2024.
Right.
So it's just like the most consistent quarterback has been Bo Nix, and if he has 40-plus touchdowns, he will pass the what-if man for the most touchdowns through 3 seasons with Justin Herbert's 102 touchdowns.
I like Drake May, but you gotta really think that playoff game was more impacted by CJ Stroud throwing 4 interceptions before halftime than what Drake May had to do. I mean, if they had lost that game, it was pretty close there for a while. With all those turnovers, that would have been ridiculous. Just to get people a little bit more torqued up about this, Justin Herbert is tier 2 at number 6 in the NFL. The aforementioned Drake May tied with Jared Goff at 8 in tier 2. Jordan Love, number 10. Brock Purdy, 11. Caleb Williams tied with Purdy at 11.
No!
Jaden Daniels at 13. I mean, Daniels was hurt all last year. Baker Mayfield at 14. I love Bake, but I mean, Sam Darnold, Trevor Lawrence at 16. Jalen Hurts at 17. I mean, it's Bo Nix is barely ahead of Aaron Rodgers. Like, it's a very weird exercise that they did, and the results are
and
kind of baffling.
And even to the point of win games and lose games, the quarterback that he played in the AFC divisional game was Josh Allen. And you know what he was doing that game? He was in prime position to win the game, but he's also the main reason they lost the game. And what happened? He was sitting on the couch, and Bo Nix was the one out-dueling the MVP that day.
Yep.
So miss me with all that crap, about Bo.
The one that triggers me the most there is Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is not a good quarterback, and the media and the rest of the league is going to find that out this year. The amount of glaze that this guy gets is ridiculous. He's terrible for the first 3 quarters of the game plus. And then in the last 5 minutes, he pulls a rabbit out of his ass, not out of his hat, out of his ass. And he finds a way to make one crazy throw with the physical talent that he has. And somehow the Bears end up winning the game. He's not a good quarterback. He's inaccurate. He can't read defenses. He is not good.
I was going to say Williams is more puzzling for me than anything because, I think he has a lot more moments. in game. Like he had a lot more moments with Ben Johnson. I think that's where you really see him blossom now is with Ben Johnson. But like there's just times where he has very puzzling moments where he takes that Russell Wilson, Patrick Mahomes 17, 20-foot drop, if you will, and then escapes and does this street ball, kind of thing in the pocket and makes a remarkable throw. But within that, he also throws an unbelievable interception. So it's just, and he's even been that way in college too. But it's one where you can clearly tell he's got the goods, and you can clearly tell that even in also clutch time between he and Bo Nix, that they do rise to the occasion, and in terms of really playing up to their level and really bringing their team back. So, I mean, I'm very curious about his future, but he's another one too. Like with the 2024 class, he was putrid with 2020.
Absolute booty cheeks.
Exactly, and then and then all of a sudden he has this really good and kind of come to Jesus moment with Ben Johnson and the Chicago Bears. And so we'll see what it goes. Because we do know the OC and quarterback marriage is vital for the development of
Yeah, 100%. But I just think that when it comes to the consistency for all 4 quarters, even though Bo makes his best plays in the 4th quarter, he's consistently good for pretty much all 4 quarters of the game. Mm-hmm. As far as Caleb's concerned, he almost has that Tebow-ness to him. And having clutch moments and being physically talented does not a good quarterback make.
And Jordan Love, what has he done?
Yeah, I agree. I think Jordan Love has shown physical talent, but he also has a level of inconsistency to him where sometimes he just puts up complete and total stinkers, man. I think he's good for a good 3 or 4 stinkers per year.
All right, so somebody has a bone to pick with you.
Oh, that's my guy Crumble.
Crumble cookies.
Yeah. I mean, I would disagree with you, Crumble. I think that we've seen those consistencies from Bo, at least from week 11 on last year. We saw consistently good quarterback play. Now, is he consistent in the sense that we saw that all year long last year? No. So in that sense, I'd agree with you. But once he was playing well, he was playing really well.
And I think part of being consistent is also not making a lot of mistakes. And he does not tend to do these egregious errors that we see from some of these other players that we've seen, errors that we've seen from previous quarterbacks that we've had on our team. So I'm excited, and I think he does not give a rat's ass about any of these surveys, any of these rankings. I don't think that it phases him at all. I think he's incredibly competitive, even though he doesn't come across as somebody that will rip your throat out, but I think he's insanely competitive. And you mentioned the OC, and I think it bears mentioning that, Davis Webb, I think this is going to be an entirely different type of Bo Nix that you're going to see. You're not going to see the frustration about the calls coming in late. I'm not envisioning that you're even going to see him being, yelling at each other on the sideline. I think that there's a real collaboration, a real simpatico between the two. And I am ultra excited. And I was happy to hear that Davis is going to be down at the field. I wouldn't even think that would have been a consideration that he'd be up in the box, especially, when he has such a tight relationship with not only Bo, but the other quarterbacks on the team. What are you seeing from Davis Webb from, your vantage point? And if you could also describe the vantage point this year versus previous years with the berm.
Sure. So if you guys have been out at what is now called Broncos Park, powered by Common Spirit, I still want to call it UC Health Training Center. That's what its name was for so long. But if you've been out there before, then you know that the players' parking lot was on the north side of the building. You could see all the players' cars there. Well, that's now where the fan bleachers are. And what's cool is these bleachers are covered with a full canopy, so you're not getting hit with any sun whatsoever. This has been the first training camp where I haven't broken a sweat. I like to stand up at the top of the bleachers, and I want to give a shout out here to my guy Maverick. He was actually out there watching training camp with me today, so that was really, really fun getting to do that with him up there. So that's your vantage point, and you get a really good view of the field. It's just high enough where you can see everything, but not too high where everything's so far away. They've been running on the field closest to the fans for the most part, so I imagine if they move to that side field on the far side, it's going to be a little bit harder to see, but it's a good view. And what was the other question? I do apologize.
The other question is, what are you seeing like with the quarterbacks, and particularly Bo with Davis Webb?
So you can definitely tell that Davis Webb is almost like Sean McVay in the way that he's calling his plays. He gives the quarterback the play in a timely, concise manner, and then he's giving the quarterback some pointers. All right, if we got single high coverage here, maybe you want to throw this route. If you got too high, maybe you want to look here. Oh, alert this, be aware for this guy coming off the edge, all that kind of stuff. It feels like Davis Webb's very in tune. As far as what the overall offense looks like, we're seeing pre-snap motion before almost every single play, and that helps give the offense more information before they snap the ball as to what coverage the defense might be in, who could be blitzing, all that kind of stuff. It just helps you know more before you snap the ball and makes you almost feel like you have the answers to the test. And so I think we're seeing a lot of growth in the players learning how to line up after all that motion. And I think it's been a really good process, and it's going to continue to get better as time goes on. And you can tell that Davis Webb very much has his pulse and has his influence on this offense. There are still some of the basic short concepts that have always been bread and butter plays in a Sean Payton offense, but it feels like in the deep passing game, that's really where we're going to see Davis Webb's impact the most on this team.
Yeah, and obviously it's what is it? The other part that's can be one of the most impactful, which is everything we've talked about, even in this offseason when the news broke about him taking the reins, and that's getting out of the huddle, right? Getting out of the huddle, and when you're out of the huddle and it's not 10 seconds remaining on the play clock and you're scrambling up there. And so I think the verbiage and having it be a little bit shorter, and also the relatability factor, and he relates a little bit better. They all have respect for one another, right? Like Bo always will have respect for Sean, but it's just there's a little bit more of a relatability because your offensive coordinator and quarterback will spend the most time together, while the head coach is collaborating with the entire team, right? So there's just a little bit more of a collaboratability, right, with the OC and quarterback, and so the marriage, it just feels like it'll be a bit smoother. And I think there's opportunities where we'll see extensions of a Sean Payton offense through the mind of Davis Webb, and I think that's going to be exciting.
And with Davis, the fact, and Sean actually mentioned it in his presser, but the fact is that he went straight from playing to coaching the following season. There was and he still had opportunities to actually continue his playing career, and wanted to jump headfirst into the coaching ranks. And I think not only with Bo and the play calling, and like you mentioned, Cam, like when you're running up to the line and there's 7 seconds left, like there is zero element of surprise. Also, the pre-snap penalty are such a possibility at that point with people not getting set. It's just a situation. But in addition to Bo and Davis, the relationship of Evan Ingram, and we'll talk a little bit about him a little bit more in a few minutes. That's one that I really am excited to see. They were in the same draft class in 2017 with the New York Giants, and now one is calling the plays for the other. And I think many of us thought that Evan Ingram was grossly underused in comparison to where we thought he was going to be going into last year. So why don't we start it off? All right. So like we're doing studs and duds so far. Let's talk about Evan Ingram and what you're seeing with him so far, Gage, and how you believe his role is going to look once the regular season starts.
So what I love is that Davis Webb is finding all kinds of different ways to get Evan Ingram open, all kinds of different ways to line him up and get him mismatched on smaller defenders, which is exactly what you want. You want somebody with his size and his speed to be able to go up and make those big plays on smaller guys, box them out. He's putting Evan Ingram in motion a lot. He's splitting him out all the way as a receiver, which is something I've been begging to see more of. They're treating Evan Ingram as a wide receiver. That is what we've wanted for so long, man. We've said it. He's not really a tight end. He's more receiver than anything, and they're using him in the slot. They're using him out wide. They put him at the end of the line in sort of a wing, but there's no risk of him being in line, having to block in those situations. I love the creativity with Evan Ingram, and you can tell that he's going to be a focal point in the offense this year if he gets more reps with the first team, because he's mostly running with the twos right now. He'll get in with the ones here or there, but most of the looks they've been giving him have been with the twos, man. We're seeing a lot of Dallin Bentley with the ones, a lot of Adam Troutman, a lot of Nate Adkins. That tells me Denver wants to lean more into heavier personnel, bigger guys, more true inline tight ends. But don't get me wrong, man. There are going to be plenty of packages for Evan Ingram, and he's going to be that chess piece that we were hoping he'd be last year. Dare I say the J word.
Well, and I think that the one thing that we also kind of like do enjoy about Sean though is he's been known to kind of like alternate, like the packages for people. So I'm sure Evan Ingram is still at some opportunities with the ones. It's just he alternates things with some different players to really get them those opportunities with first team and second team, because when that moment arises, you want to at least have some of that chemistry with the first team the moment that arises for you. So we all know that Sean really does kind of like enjoy that, to really kind of give everybody a piece of the first team, if you will. So that is one thing I will always appreciate Sean for. So the thing with Evan Ingram is we are all excited to hear that Evan Ingram has been a stud so far in training camp. But I think the key word is, are we buying or selling the idea of Evan Ingram going forward within that regular season? I think that's just the biggest question, because in a format of training camp, which is a little bit more freeform, a little bit more exciting, a little bit more offering when it comes to exciting plays, I think it's going to be a very interesting conversation where in this kind of format, you would hope that a guy like an Evan Ingram would succeed and really get those opportunities to really excel. And I think that for Ingram, if he can really be that guy that's going to take that next step, he's going to have to take that and have it be progressed into the preseason and then into the regular season for it to really matter. So can he actually take that chemistry and really move it into the regular season? That's ultimately the $1 million question.
Yep. Yeah,
And
that's been the question. Sorry, Glenn.
No, finish what you're saying.
That's been the question really since the offseason, because Ingram has looked good in these camp environments before. We saw that last year, but then come regular season, he didn't do anything really. So hopefully this year, with all the indications that we have of him being used in all these different roles, that we actually see that production in camp translate into production on the field in the regular season. So I'm hoping that we get to see a little bit more of an unlocked layer from Evan Ingram this year.
So in the comments, people are mentioning that Ingram is going to do well with Webb, and they're also referencing another player that is one of my favorite players on the team that is getting a lot of flowers right now, which is very exciting to me, because I think this guy is one of the most clutch players on the entire team, and that is number 19, Marvin Mims Jr. Tell us about what you're seeing and why we should all be excited about what's happening.
So with Marvin Mims, the bugaboo for him these last couple of years has been his limited route running. We know that he can get open on those go routes, man. There's no doubt about that with the straight line speed that he has. He's also pretty good at stopping quickly. So he was able to get open on those sit routes and maybe the occasional slant. But that was really all we saw from him. We didn't see him run the full route tree. I'm happy to report he's running the full route tree now, folks. We're seeing him run in breakers, out breakers, slants, digs, posts, all kinds of different stuff out there. It's very clear that Marvin Mims has put in a lot of work this offseason with his footwork and all of that stuff, and it's translated into more opportunities in this offense. He wasn't getting those opportunities last year because you kind of knew what he was going to do whenever he was out there on the field. You knew that might have been some kind of deep shot to him, but now you don't know if it's going to be a deep shot off play action. You don't know if it's just going to be a bunch of choice routes underneath because Mims can be a threat in that area now. And it allows you more opportunities to get him on the field and will ultimately set up more opportunities for those deep play action post plays. Get him the ball on the run with a defender trailing him 10 yards down the field. That's what we want to see. And I think we're going to see that this year out of Marvin Mims. And it might come at the expense of another speedy wide receiver on this roster in Troy Franklin, because the thing that separated Mims and Franklin was the route running. Franklin was a better route runner than Mims. There's still question marks about Franklin's hands, and his physicality at the point of the catch, but his route running did improve from year 1 to year 2. Now with Mims running more routes, are there redundancies with Franklin because you've obviously got Jalen Waddle playing Z? Franklin was your main starting Z last year. Franklin hasn't done much out there at training camp, and Mims brings special teams value. Franklin does not bring special teams value. What I'm trying to get at here is don't be surprised if Troy Franklin is the Devon Vele traded this year. Don't be surprised about that at all because Franklin hasn't gotten a lot of work in training camp so far. It's still early. A lot can change between now and the end of camp, but if there are any indications as to which receiver could be on the outside looking in, it is Troy Franklin.
Yeah, well, and I think that the thing that has been almost underappreciated when it comes to Marvin is when you date it back to to college. When you date it back to college and when he was with Oklahoma, he was probably their more reliable wide receiver, right? And so, and he was kind of a little bit more explosive when it came to the route tree. There was a reason why he was being compared a little bit to Brandon Cooks, at times. I mean, Brandon Cooks was a very savvy wide receiver, and so I think that it's very interesting. But like I think it's very interesting for Mims that he's definitely underused, but also I think he can really take that next step.
Agreed. And Cam, people in the chat are saying that your volume's a little bit low. Okay.
My settings are really high, like everywhere. My microphone over here in the chat, if you will, they're high everywhere. So I don't know what's going on.
You just got to get up close and make out with that microphone, man.
I guess I have to.
I can't believe Cam said I can't believe Cam said the commenters were really high. I thought that was out of line, but it's probably true, but whatever.
I will say, guys, we've got 100 people watching us live right now. Please be sure to smash the like and subscribe to both channels. Please. It helps us out a ton.
Yeah, thank you so much. And the comments, please keep them coming. As you see, like we're a show that pulls them up on a very regular basis. If you don't see it being pulled up, usually it's going to be something that we harken back to after when that topic comes up a little bit later on in the show. But Gage, you talked about Franklin being a potential trade, and you did something the other day that was very, very cool. And it sounds like you're going to be doing it pretty regularly on Bronco Syndicate, is that you're going to be doing your 53-man roster. as like in live, so it's not a recorded deal, and people can comment at the same time as you're offering it. But you did have Troy Franklin as not making this team as a result of being traded. Um, Crazily enough, and we're not considering him a stud. Who did you think was going to be the fifth wide receiver on your list?
Little Jordan Humphrey, man. I know that's a polarizing name here in Broncos country, but he fills a very important role on this team as a blocking wide receiver, both in the run game as well as the screen game. And screens are still going to be a big part of this offense. That is evident in training camp. So those screens are not going to go away, and Humphrey helps run them at a more efficient rate. Run them for the 7 yards per clip that they're supposed to get, as opposed to the 2 yards per clip that they were getting at various points last year. And Humphrey's involved a lot in the short passing game on slants, option routes, quick ends, all of that kind of stuff. We've seen him get extended looks with the ones in camp, more so than Troy Franklin. So right now, I do have the fifth wide receiver on this team as Little Jordan Humphrey.
And were you only sticking with 5 wide receivers because Engram is essentially being treated as a 6th wide receiver?
Yes, that is definitely part of it, but also just kind of the math at other positions. I actually have them carrying 6 edge rushers into the 53. Mm-hmm. So that just kind of worked out where you needed that spot at other positions.
Now, Crumble asks about Hakeem Butler, and that's one of the players that was exciting to me going into camp. You said he's doing well so far, right?
Yep, he is on my studs list. He has definitely stood out in the exact role that you'd expect him to. A go ball merchant where he can make these crazy back shoulder catches. He can use his size and his big frame to box out players, go up and high point balls. He's done a really good job with that. And even on quick slants and stuff, he does a good job of using that size to get himself open. One thing to monitor, though, with him today, and this hasn't been reported by anybody that I've seen, but I saw it happen right in front of me. He came up and was grabbing at his groin during a play. He was running the route, and he just came up lame and grabbed right at that groin area. So, yeah, we'll see, man, if that ends up being anything serious or not. But he's definitely stood out there, and he's made some good plays.
What about Bandy?
Michael Bandy, he's also been making a lot of plays underneath on those little option routes and those quick ins, those quick outs, running as kind of the backup slot player. So I imagine practice squad is in his future once again. The Broncos like him. They covet what he does on offense. I believe Bandy is going to be around in some capacity. Probably not on the 53, but he will be around.
Michael Bandy, Broncos legend. He reminds me so much of Wes Welker, so
he does wear 83.
maybe that has something to do with it, but just his style and that touchdown he scored against the Packers last year just like gave me Wes vibes for sure. Let's continue with it. If your stud list that you've put out there, Gage, holds true, this Broncos offense is going to be extremely potent. Pat Bryant.
Yeah,
big stud.
Pat Bryant, man, big time stud. These past couple of practices as well, after the pads have come on, you've seen Bryant take things to the next level. He's catching everything that's being thrown his way. He's working in the big slot role with the number 1 offense, and he's also working outside in the X role with the number 2 offense, which checks out to what his role was last year as well, kind of that big slot backup X receiver. And he's definitely getting himself noticed out there. Had some really nice plays during one-on-ones today. I think that Pat Bryant's going to be very prominently featured in this offense. And I think he's also part of the reason why Troy Franklin could be on the outside looking in.
Cam, going into the season, what do you think of Bryant? What are you looking forward to seeing from him?
I apologize if my volume has been low. Mike is working on it and everything. But
it's appropriate that we have someone named Mike actually working on that, so that's good.
I will say I think for me with Pat Bryant and Troy Franklin and Marvin Mims, it's one where it's just I think they're going to be alternating between the wide receiver 3 and everything else. And so I just, it's one where whoever probably separates themselves, I think that's where you'll probably see a little bit more, separation from the Franklin. Is he really on the block? Is he not on the block kind of situation?
Yes.
So are we going to have enough balls to go around for all these guys, including the running backs that can catch as well?
That's going to be interesting to monitor, man, because everybody wants the rock, right? And you can tell that they're going to be throwing the ball all over the yard with Davis Webb this year. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see just how many guys end up catching the ball on game day, you know?
And we haven't even touched on Jalen Waddle. Is he as good as advertised in person?
Yes, he is, man. You can tell there's just a different level of quickness to him getting in and out of these routes. He has some serious chemistry already with Bo Nix on like option routes, quick in breakers, quick slants. And we saw in one-on-ones today, he was really making some plays out there against Pat Surtain, kind of that old Alabama connection starting to heat up again. Those two have had some battles throughout their entire career, and we definitely saw that today. Jalen Waddle was actually my breakout performer on the offensive side of the ball from today's practice. I thought that he really stood out.
Yeah, someone's keeping receipts, by the way. Jubber Franklin, 1855. Troy will be second in touchdowns. Don't switch your take because I will let you know what you've been saying ever since Troy got here.
Hey, man, we're working with new information now. I'm allowed to change my opinion. You called me out in my chat earlier. I understand where you're coming from, but I'm also allowed to change my opinion with new information coming in.
Yeah. Oh. All right, so let's go to the defensive side of the ball. What are you seeing there, and who are our studs there?
Yeah, man. I'm looking at Corinne Reed. He's definitely been really good on that side of the ball. He's had some peanut punches out there. He's had some pressures from the off-ball linebacker position. I believe that Corinne Reed is in line to have possibly a prominent role as the third linebacker on the defense this year. I think it's going to be a really tight race between him and Red Murdoch. Tyler Onyedem, just like Michael Ronquillo mentioned, he had a couple of really big pressures in yesterday's practice, had a would-be sack on Jarrett Stidham, also had some key run defending plays. I thought that he looked really, really strong out there. Let's see, who else do we have on that side of the ball? Riley Moss. Riley Moss has had an incredible couple of practices, had an interception yesterday, even though it was a free play that wouldn't have counted. Riley still prevented a big completion on that one, going up and mossing Cortland Sutton, no pun intended, somehow coming away with the ball there. It was an absolutely crazy play by him. So, yeah, definitely happy with what we've seen from Riley Moss. Red Murdoch on that side as well, yet another stud. So, I think that side of the ball is just going to continue to be a really, really fun thing to follow as we go throughout this offseason.
I'm still laughing at this comment when you said Corinne Reed, Karen Reed, if you're familiar with that. But Corinne Reed has as much as he probably wants to be more in Canton, Ohio than Canton, Massachusetts for sure after what happened to Karen there. But Boss Moss is back. Yes. And then we need a Riley Moss preseason interception, assuming he plays. Is there any chance he gets traded?
No, definitely not. Okay. There's no competition. He is their starting boundary corner this year alongside Pat Surtain, and there's no question about that.
All right, that sounds good. We also have heard about backup quarterback has something potentially brewing. What's going on there?
Yeah, the backup quarterback competition is going to be really interesting to monitor here because we've got Jarrett Stidham and Sam Ehlinger. Sean Payton has said that this is going to be a true competition. We're seeing them alternate reps every day. So today we saw Jarrett Stidham out there running with the twos, and at this point, I don't think either one of them is truly separated. On day one, I would have said Jarrett Stidham, but he's kind of come back down to earth and has at least been even Steven with Sam Ehlinger. They're throwing a lot of short stuff, a lot of checkdowns. We've seen some explosive plays out of both quarterbacks. I believe that this backup quarterback competition is going to go all the way into the final preseason game. And Ellinger is definitely working his tail off and challenging Stiddy every single day. We all know that Sean loves Stiddy, loves what he brings from a veteran leadership perspective. I don't trust Jarrett Stidham on the field. We saw what happened in the AFC Championship game, had the boneheaded turnover that lost the game for the team.
Lost
but
the game.
It did. It really did. And
100%.
Yeah. And at this point, it's like, can you trust City not to make that kind of boneheaded play in that situation again? I don't know. But I do feel like Sam Ellinger is going to at least give Jarrett Stidham a run for his money throughout the entirety of the preseason.
So when we start seeing all the Twitter profile pictures being changed to Ellinger with the sunglasses and the headphones or the AirPods, that's going to be the indicator that he got the backup role.
Yes. Oh man, that's a trend that I think everybody in Broncos country wished never happened.
You know who I feel for are the people that if you remember, like NFL shops sold out of Fanatics, all those they're all related, but they all sold out of the Stiddy number 8s prior to the AFC Championship. We just had such high hopes, and like you said, that fumble, intercept, whatever that spasm was on, that gave the Patriots the go-ahead score. Yeah, that was a lot went wrong that day, but you know what? It'll be a sweeter situation when the Broncos win that AFC Championship and Bo Nix will be the starting quarterback. So
yeah, I agree, man. I think that it's going to be very vindicating. I think that it's going to be very liberating because we got robbed last year. There's no doubt about it. We got absolutely robbed last year. Sorry, I was just looking at my phone, seeing how my connection was. I didn't know if I was dropping frames or anything. But yeah, man, I think that it's going to feel really liberating. And Crumble asked, what have I seen from Bo? How has he improved? I think that seeing the field consistently, not bailing from the pocket too early, being able to stand in until the last possible second to see those routes over the middle of the field develop. I think Davis Webb has really helped him out with that, telling him it's okay to hang in there for an extra second, Bo. You don't have to take off and try to make some crazy backyard play straight away.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think you're right. So tomorrow is going to be a padded practice. Looks like it's going to be about 2.5 hours. Do you have a ticket for that?
Yes, I do. I was able to get one. Shout out to Todd Troutman over on Twitter. I met him last year out at training camp, and that was really cool. But he hooked me up with a ticket, so I will be out there, and I'm really excited for that because it's going to be more of a true traditional scrimmage style practice, and that's going to be really fun. And it looks like Cam is back.
Is this better at all?
Oh, finally.
Oh, my God, we can hear you. Yes.
And thank you for joining us on the 5280. That's it for us tonight. No, I'm just kidding. So Gage, actually, there's quite a bit of people on right now, and thank you for everyone for joining in. You know, it's an exciting time, obviously. Being back in the swing of things for training camp. Gage, if you have any days that you're looking for a particular ticket, now might be a time where you throw that out there and see if any of our generous listeners would be willing there. And Cam, same thing. If you have a day that you're looking for a ticket, please
I'd have to
speak
work
now.
I was gonna say I'd have to work it with work to make sure I can fit a day.
And I have to double check and see what days I don't have, to be honest. So that's not the best timing for that. I'm going to jump out and jump back in real quick. My internet's kind of glitching out.
Well, if it's not my volume, it's his internet.
Yep.
God, it seems like I'm the only perfect one here tonight. That's a scary proposition for sure.
See, we've not been doing a show for about a month.
Yeah.
And so I guess it seems fitting that we would have technical difficulties, and everything. But no, I apologize for the volume being low. I guess it was just a simple restart. So,
and Gage is coming back in. Oh,
and Mike's like, I'm having no issues with my stuff. Oh, sure, still coming into the chat. Troll us, Mike. Come on.
Says the guy who still won't actually make a physical appearance on the show.
Yeah, seriously, leaving us to do this all on our own. What a square.
I mean, it's probably time that we tell everybody that Mike got a facelift and it's not healed yet, and he doesn't want to be on. It's kind of like he's got the Kyle Shanahan thing going on. He can't show what he looks like at the moment until everything is healed. I think it's just better to be more transparent than anything. So, Mike, good luck with I mean, you called it a rhinoplasty, I think, but we all know what it was. But so, preview tomorrow, Gage. What do you
Yes.
expect it to look like? There was some chippiness today. Do you think that'll continue, especially with being all padded up?
Yeah, so with the chippiness today, we saw a couple of separate dust ups. The first one appeared to involve JL Skinner and Little Jordan Humphrey.
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of getting each other's faces a little bit. And then after a sack play, it spilled over where Evan Ingram and Jaquan McMillan got into it. And I saw Skinner came out of that dust up hot as well. So you could tell that the tensions were flying a little bit out there, and everybody's kind of excited to go against somebody who isn't in their own colors, somebody who isn't wearing their uniform. They're ready to hit someone out there. So you can tell that the energy's high out there, and the dust-ups might continue into the next practice. It's going to be a true game-like scrimmage, if you will, where they're going play after play after play, moving the ball, full contact, full speed, and as close as you can get to the real thing without being in a game, basically. So really excited for that. We're going to learn a lot on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and JL Skinner has really been beaten up in social media and on Twitter just for poor performance thus far in training camp. So I don't know if he's trying to light a fire under his own ass or just kind of deflect a little bit from his performance, but you don't have him making the team at this point, right?
I don't believe I did. No.
Yeah.
So he's going to have to fight to make the team at this point.
Perfect. So Cam, any studs you want to add, or were you pretty satisfied with the list that was mentioned so far?
I think the thing for me that's just it's as far as like the studs, it's just one that, from what I'm gathering, it seems like there's more studs than duds, and I think that's the mark of a good football team.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like the biggest takeaway is like it's the mark of a good football team when you have more studs than duds. And I think the thing that's obviously worth following is when some of those duds are battling for a roster spot, of course.
Yeah.
And so I think the thing that's going to be exciting, obviously to watch is we know that we know that there's obviously not going to be any sort of joint practice with another team, right? So it's going to be if you can really kind of incorporate a scrimmage in there that it sort of simulates playing against another team. I think that's going to be where we'll see the most. And maybe that's one of the reasons why we saw a fight break out just a little bit, or a skirmish break out a little bit today, just because they're rearing up and ready to, for that scrimmage that's going to happen.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, boys. The chat has been fantastic, everybody. Thank you so much. It's we've been Mike and I started this in 2021. So this is, or 2020, I should say. So this is our 6th year. We're celebrating our 6th anniversary as a show, as a network, in September. So it couldn't be more fun to have everybody along for the ride, and really the people that join in and the chat make it the most fun. Like I said, we love pulling up the comments. If you could subscribe, share, whatever. Also head over to Broncos Syndicate. Make sure you do the same with Gage, mainly Broncos. Cam, give us a preview what you have on the next show tomorrow, or on Thursday, I should say.
It might be once you kind of hit training camp, it might end up being like regurgitated topics sometimes with training camp. But yeah, we'll do a deep dive on training camp. We actually are planning to have Edge, Broncos Edge, on, who was at training camp, just this last couple days, and we know what happened, unfortunately, with his experience. with the video and whatnot. But yeah, no, it's gonna be an exciting time. It's an exciting show. When training camp is in full swing, ready to go for Broncos content.
Awesome. Well, thank you again, folks, and we look forward to being with you every Tuesday moving forward. 9 Eastern, 7 Mountain. For Gage Madrid, Cameron Parker, I'm Glenn Hauser, and Mike, thanks for helping us out, and we hope to see you soon.
Fast lane when I pass in the street, bag of money in the passenger seat. Tempo's been asking for me on the road from the west to the east. Way up, I might never come down, cause the coast's racking up the flight miles.